This video will walk you through how to do a design of experiments using output from IWARS. So as part of this, we're going to build them all in IWARS, analyze it through BRASS, and then do a design of experiment in R Commander and feed the data from IWARS into R Commander and do some useful analysis. So the first thing we have to do is we have to build our scenario. So I'm going to open up a new IWARS file, and we're going to use the McKenna mount site. So the situation I'm going to be looking at is pretty straightforward. I'm going to have a blue fire team located right here at this top corner. I'm going to have them facing this direction. I'm going to go ahead and put them in urban close assault. So I'm going to now assign a linear feature and create a path for them. They're going to walk straight down the street, take a hard turn, and continue down to right there. Along the way, they're going to meet a handful of red agents. So I'm going to put a couple of red agents right here. Right there. Right there. And right there. So the blue agents are going to walk down the street and engage these 4 red agents. So let's go ahead and build it out. So I'm opening Mission Builder. I'm going to assign my blue mission first. I'm going to have move along path formation. Set path. I'm going to give that path move along path. Path 1. Too easy. I'm also going to add an engagement mission. Engage, retarget. I'm going to call this blue mission. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in a red mission where the red agents simply shoot at the blue agents without moving. So I'm going to save that, and I'm just going to create a folder on my desktop. Call it IWARS DOE example. Open. I'm going to call this scenario 1. Alright. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set the weapons for all of my agents so that they all have M4s with 5.56 rounds. So let's switch, change his weapon to being an M4, 5.56 round. The Grenadier should be able to select from the drop-down menu, switch it to being the M4, select the ammunition, and the Rifleman should be good as well. Just double check. So Grenadier. Alright, so they all have M4s right now. And also they should all, let's make sure they all have, I want them all to have armor. So default protection, default protection, default protection, default protection. Okay, awesome. So let's run it and just make sure everything works. I'm going to go and speed things up. And we can see that 4 blue agents died and 2 red agents died. Let's run it again, see what happens. In this scenario, 4 blue agents and 3 red agents died. Alright, so if we run this multiple times, we get different outcomes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save that and call that scenario 1. Now suppose that we'll look at the impact of weapon systems and body armor to the effects of what happened here. So suppose I switch everyone to having no armor. And no armor. And I'm going to go ahead and save this as scenario 2. And now I'm going to add it, I'm going to go back, allow them to have armor again. I'm going to switch their weapon so that all of them have M249 saws. The tricky part is you always have to make sure they have ammo, because by default when you switch the weapon, the ammo gets cleared. So just for fun, let's run it. I expect to see the blue do a little bit better.
How long does it take until we do this software? Like, is this like a next week thing? Is it a 3-month thing? Like,
In this case, didn't really do that much better.
Oh,
But over time, if we run this a lot of times, we'd expect them to do better. So I'm going to save that as scenario 3. And now I'm going to create scenario 4 where they all have the 249s but with no armor. So this is our standard 2K analysis. We have 4 different scenarios where we look at armor and no armor, and 249s versus M4s. Alright, so now I have my scenario created, all 4 of them. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open Brass and batch run them. So let's load up Brass. The project will be closed in order to run the scenario in batch mode. Perfect. So it closes. Asks me to save as a new project file. I'm going to go back to my IWARS DOE example and call this DOE. So normally an error that comes up with Brass whenever you try running it is it'll by default try to save things in a place that you don't have access to. So I'm just going to go File, New, and create a new one altogether. And I'm going to put it in my folder. I'm just going to call it DOE.project. And I'm going to do add task group. Let's call this DOE 2K armor weapon. I'm going to add an existing scenario, save and proceed. And I'm going to put scenario 1. You can proceed with chosen path. It's easier for revision control. I'm going to set 20 replications. Now I'm going to repeat that and add the other couple of scenarios. All right, so I have my 4 scenarios. What it's going to do is it's going to run scenario 1 where they have M4 and body armor 20 times, and scenario 2 where they have M4s and no body armor, and scenario 3 where they have saws and body armor, and scenario 4 where they have saws and no body armor. And now the next I need is an analysis file. I'm going to create a new analysis. I'm going to just save it there. And then I'm also going to add saved results. It's not going to let me edit my output analysis if I run my scenario. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to run my scenario. All right, so it finished running, and now we can do some stuff with the analysis tool. So I'm going to load up the output analysis tool. By default, this is what it always looks like. Let's go ahead and get rid of agent behaviors. That just records every single thing that occurred in every model. And I'm going to modify this so that it's run, scenario name, and get rid of time, move up, agent unit force, so this is red and blue, split count, run analysis, and it shows me, okay, run, let's move that up, run analysis. So I can see that on run 1 through 20, I'm on scenario 1, 21 through 40, scenario 2, 41 through 60, scenario 3, 61 through 80, scenario 4, and in almost every case I have 4, all my blue agents died. However, the red agents is a little more variable, which we'll see in the output analysis. So I'm going to hit run analysis just again, and I'm going to close this, and I'm going to save it. I'm going to now unclick everything and just re-click these last two, just run them again. And I'm going to open the folder for my saved results from the most recent. Open folder. You'll see a lot of files in here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to search for the one that's the most recent. 356. If I open this file, it should look similar to my output analysis, which it does. All right, so we're now ready for the ARC Commander part. So here you can see RStudio. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and load up ARC Commander. Everything's loading. All right. So I have ARC Commander right here. Next thing I'm going to do is load the plugin. DOE, OK. It's going to ask me to restart it. I'm going to restart it. It restarted. I can see right here I have my design option. I'm going to create a design, general full factorial experiment, 2 factors, body armor and weapon system. I'm going to do 20 replications. As always, I hit repeat only. Again, the 20 replications is because I did 20 runs per scenario. I have 2 factors, each of which are going to be 2 levels. So factor A is going to be my weapon, 2 levels, and my M4 and my M249. Weapon B is going to be body armor, 1 word, number of levels 2, standard, none. Now I'm going to get an export, CSV and data, CSV and RDA file. I'm going to change my directory. I'm going to put it in the same directory I've been doing stuff in. Let's see, IWARS DOE example. And I'm going to select that folder, replace file if exists, just for good measure. And I'm going to hit OK. And it should have created it. Let's check. So right here, design.1.csv. All right, so we're looking pretty good right now. So I'm going to add in a couple of add in my response variables from my IWARS run. I'm going to start with blue KIA and red KIA. It's important that these are 1 word. We're using a CSV file, so it's things need to stay as one word. One thing you will notice is that the order that they come out from our commander may not necessarily align with what you have for your scenario, and that's the case here. So right here, M4 and none would be scenario 2. So those 20 runs need to be scenario 2. So I can come over here to my 2K analysis on my blue and red. I'm going to go to my scenario 2 values. I'm going to copy those over here. I'm going to split the screen so I can have both open at the same time. All right. Now, M249 and none is going to be my scenario 4. M249 in standard is going to be my scenario 3. And my M4 in standard is going to be my scenario 1. All right, so I have all my response variables in there. I'm going to hit File, Save. I'm going to close out of this, minimize that. And I'm going to go back in my R commander, Design, Import, Re-import experiment from CSV and RDA file, change my working directory, select my RDA file, select my CSV file, hit OK. I'm going to view my data set just to make sure it makes sense. And we can see that, yeah, all my response variables are in there. All right, so now let's have some fun with our linear models, main effects, and interaction plots. So let's start with fit model, linear model. I'm going to start with blue KIA as a function of body armor plus weapon plus body armor times weapon. I'm going to hit OK. And just like I expect, there's very little interaction there. It's almost always 4, 3.975 is what it averaged out to be. Body armor, weapon, and the interaction of body armor and weapon had no effect on blue KIA. What about red KIA? So let's switch blue KIA for red KIA. I'm going to hit OK now. And here's what I get. Sadly, I get that there is no effect there either. I was expecting to see one, but you don't always get what you want. So you can see that there's no real effect between body armor and weapon system carried by the blue force going up against that red force. Regardless, I can still create my main effects and interaction plots, even though it's not necessarily significant. So I'm going to do Analyze Design, 2-level design, main effect interaction plots. I'm going to do blue K, weapon, body armor, my main effects plot. And here it looks like we're seeing something, but when you look at the y-axis, 3.95 to 4. So it's a very small, it's negligible. So there's no real change there, which is what we saw on our data runs. Now let's try this again with our red K. And again, we can see a little bit larger for change, but not that much more when we go from M4 to 249 or standard body armor versus no body armor. All right, so let's look at our interaction plots too, just for good measure. Just right here. So I have my main effects plot. This is pretty much what I'd expect to see. Keep in mind that your y-axes are pretty small here as well. And I can do the same for red KIA. And this is the result I get. All right, so this is an example of a DOE using IWARS. And basically what we did was we created a scenario in IWARS, and then we modified the scenario to do a 2K analysis. In our case, we modified the weapon and the body armor level of the blue force. We then ran it in Brass to get a number of runs, 20 replications, for each of those 4 design points. We then imported it into R Commander and did built a linear model for it, as well as main effects and interaction plots.